Right, well, we've got another box here, and we know what's in it. It's Binatone Long Ranger 6. But he sent a freebie as well, and that's really kind of him. So thank you very much for that, gentleman beginning with D. We sent this as a freebie. A Merit. So it's the Great manufactured. Make sure there's nothing else in the box. Put the box to one side. So this is the Great manufactured one. You can't do this. You can't unless somebody's modified it inside. You can't just put a BNC on. It's not an aerial output at that point because there's a loading coil. So that's not something. This is for spares. So you may have. I'm going to open it up. We've covered these before. They're crystal controlled, and you know what? We've actually had more success with the crystals not having failed in the Great sets than we have with, say, the Grandstand crystal controlled one. I can't remember what luck we had with the DNT crystal controlled one. The Harvard SOS emergency set hasn't been too good with the crystals. But some of these are single channel and you paid for extra crystals, or some of them have all 6 spaces fitted. So this one has all 6, so what he's done there is to send a lot of crystals, and many of those will be recoverable. So because these have a loading coil for the aerial, this is the problem with these. You can't set them up properly because of the loading coil. You can't do that because that isn't how it works. I don't think we've got a circuit for these. So although these are massive and on the face of it a 4-watt output, I don't think we've really had more than 3 miles range on them because they're not actually as efficient on transmit, even with the 1.5 metre telescopic aerial, as a lot of other metal sets. So kind of a bit of a disappointment. What we have got is we've got an AM one. And I just happened to put my hand on it straight away. So because that's complete, I reckon we can take the telescopic and all its mounts out of this American one, which obviously is inherently scrap. And oh no, this isn't a licensed one at all. These were 29 megs. So right in the middle of ham band, but not sold as ham radio sets at the time. You can see the modulation transformer, the AM. So what I'm hoping is it will be possible to take the perfectly good telescopic off this and put it on the one that Mr. D has kindly donated. So that's going to be a forthcoming attraction. But they're not as impressive as the Binatone Long Rangers by a long way. No range pun intended there. So I'll kind of put those to one side. They're so massive, I take as much space as a base station. So maybe I have to make something out of that. Now onto the real set. I don't even know we've covered the Long Ranger 6 before. Everybody seems to have got the 12 or the 40, and these were £10 cheaper. So apart from the number of channels, exactly the same set, exactly the same range. They're good for 6 miles. You don't get a serial number on these. So it's channel 6 through to 11. Six, 7. So it's 27 65125, 27 68125, 27 70125. So I'll have to rejig our test equipment to take those channels into consideration. They are synthesized, not crystal controlled. There's a very obsolete synthesizer which was obsolete when these were made. But as I say, they nevertheless work well. Just another point, people do put comments which would be inappropriate. We've got a lot of filters set up on this channel, so if you mention a CB radio that isn't a UK model, the comment will be auto-deleted. And sometimes people put in, and there's a particular regular person, and he's putting in that he's received Timbuktu or whatever on his radio, which he's not licensed to have, and the comment gets auto-deleted because the filters are set up like that. Because this channel is only, as far as CB radio goes, it's only about UK FM legal CB radio. Now, some of those newer models which have post 2014 we're talking about, which is CE approved for AM, we may cover from time to time, but it's not what this channel's really about. It's about 2781 stuff. And some of the reason for the filters being in place is they don't want people to incriminate themselves. It's like saying, here's a video of me driving at 130 miles an hour down the M1 motorway. I wouldn't want to link to somebody's video of them breaking the law. So that's part of the thing. I don't want people incriminating themselves. And so they've got a lot of filters in place to stop what would be inappropriate to this channel comments. So I welcome lots of comments, but it has to be in regards to legal CB equipment. Well, it's been done all right, hasn't it? It's the 8.1. I was looking at that. Was it leak or was it wax? And it's wax. So you've got the same situation where you've got a 10.24 reference crystal for the synthesizer, and then you've got a separate receive and transmit mixer crystal, which we have to set up totally separately. We have a Mitsubishi C2SC2166 output transistor, so it's a very capable device, and we usually get somewhere, again it's difficult to read because they've got an RCA connector which are very lossy, a lot of thin wiring which is lossy, the loading coil in place which causes loss, so we can never read the power properly, but we'll normally get something between 2.5 and 3.5 watts showing on the meter. I've just realised that I've got the thing plugged into the other test set. Right, so I'm going to make a start on this. I do have other things to do, but we can put 10 minutes more into it. Especially if I can find my Motorola adapter. So it's Motorola to SO239, and it will fit phono as well. The depth of that, put it against that background, is such that it fits the Motorola connector on an old-fashioned standard car radio. And those connectors were used on scanners in the 70s and 80s. Yes, that's crystal controlled scanners. So what we want is a bit of a power lead. positive inner, 12 volts, and not 13.8, and it says 450 milliamps for the battery charger, but it's not 450 milliamps for the external power input, it's about 900 milliamps. So we'll start this off at the full voltage of 12 because the customer has previously been using it. There's not supposed to be anything wrong with it, it just wants a service, so he knows it's as good as it can be. So that's us connected to power and the aerial to our test equipment. Switch it on, switch it to high, and we'll do everything on channel 9. So it's 6, 7, 8, 9, so it's D. I'll switch picture in picture on, and let's see if there's some transmit. There is, 1.5 watts. Channel A, turn the volume down, 1.4 watts, and channel F, which is 11, 1.45 watts. So it's pretty well balanced. I'll go back to channel 6A125. We'll go back to the centre channel. And look at it. The current consumption is 300 milliamps. So I was telling you about, it's a lot more than 450. Well, it will be when it's working properly. I can't work that out because surely I'll go to low power. Forget I even said anything. Low power is doing 200 milliwatts. That is preset, but we should do better than that after tune-up. Frequency is out, as we'd expect. Let's go to the frequency counter. May as well deal with that straight away. Not that the test set's been on long. So it's 68093. 2768093, so it should be 68125. It will come a bit up as the test equipment warms up. We'll set it to somewhere correct, and then I can just trim it off video later if needs be. I won't bother setting the receive yet. We'll have to use the marker oscillator for that. So here we go, 2768092. I think it's the outer one of the two. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, it still goes. I'll set it there. We'll say it's on frequency, which it will be. We're not doing the VCO, no method on that. There's no meter, therefore there's no meter lamp. Doesn't have PA. So let's run through the transmitter. Make sure my soldering iron's on. The speech processor is under this main board. To do the deviation, the main board's got to come out, and the subboard underneath with the speech processor is where the adjustment is. Now usually these don't need adjusting, so I'm not just being a lazy bones. Well, the customer pays differently as to whether we take the bottom as it comes into a different level, so I'm not going to take every one apart to clock up the bill either. So I'll have a quick look at deviation. Go back to the main meter. Wallow. So at the moment that's reading like 2.5. which is where it should be. So I'll tell you what, we'll go over to the other test set where I know the deviation meter's spot on, and we'll just see what that has to say. So I could get a 2.6 peak, which is a little high, but it's fine. Nobody will fiddle with these because most people aren't going to realise you've got to take the board out to do that. Yeah, that's all right. So the Marconi test set's not lying today. I did manage to get a 2.7 peak there, but it's a walkie-talkie and that's not going to happen in reality. That's fine. So we're not going to take the board out. So it stays as service level. It stays as the routine and tests, hopefully, rather than a service level 2 repair. Right, so that should have warmed up the soldering iron, which is why I was delaying things. And we'll go over to this main meter, and better go back to high power. Check these RX lights work. That's squelch coupled, it does, and that does too. Whilst keying it up, make sure you're not touching the aerial because you're going to end up getting an RF burn off it. Notice the set is crystal filtered as standard. All the 3, the 6, the 12 and the 40 are crystal filtered receivers. So we'll just see whether we can get a bit more out of this transmitter. Well, that's 2.1 watts. That's 2.1 and a tiny bit watts. Whoops. That's exactly where I put. It's 2.4. Okay, so we've got 2.2. But that doesn't mean that that's all it's doing, because we've got all this rod antenna and all that malarkey. So 2.2 watts. We're drawing 410. Normally they draw a bit more than this, but it's not on an aerial, is it? It's on the test set dummy load. See what it's doing on the other channels. So channel A doing 2.4 watts. Oh, that's strange. And channel F is doing 2.4 watts. And well, held like this, it's doing 2.3. When it cools down, it'll do more as well. You know what? Thinking back to that Great Maid set that Mr. D has kindly sent us. Well, maybe to wire that BNC in as an external aerial output, which those sets don't have, and that would make it something we could do an on-the-air test like this with, plugged into the roof rail, because we've never been able to do that with those because they don't have an aerial socket. So, deviation is correct, transmit is correct, power is now optimised. So we'll just get the receiver set up to channel 9. Obviously we're not usually setting radios up on channel 9. So it's 2768125. We'll go to the frequency counter. So that's 2768125. And we'll plug the test equipment into the external speaker socket. And then we can get a cyanide reading. Oh, that was great. This wire snapped off. Cut the power. Switch back on. And we'll look at the cyanide meter. Let's do it a little bit more volume. And turn the squelch down. It's not very good, to be honest. At the moment we've got 2.6 for 12 dB. With 10 dB we've got 2. And for 30 we've got 6 microvolts. Now I don't think it's miles off frequency. I'll substitute this for a speaker we can hear. In fact, the internal one will do if I just turn it down a bit. And we'll switch the tone off the signal generator. And now we'll plug in the secondary signal generator. In order to set the receive frequency. So with it being synthesized, we only need to set one channel, and we're choosing one in the centre of the band, hence channel 9. So, can you hear that musical note? So we've got 10.695 on here. We've got the correct frequency. I'll just check we have. Yes, we have. So our only variable now is the crystal mixer in this radio. And just the trimmer. There we are, we're spot on. So it was really, really close. So we'll just have a quick go through the receiver. We'll start by putting the oscilloscope on and 100 microvolts on the signal generator, and we'll just check the detector's correct. Just go up a level with that, or we'll turn the volume up, one or the other. So let's have a look. Where's the detector? Looks to be there. That was already spot on. So we'll go down to the synod meter, drop that to somewhere near 4 dB so we can see the change. That one that was out. Let's just do this one. That was also out. Put a bigger signal on for the IFs. That one feels broken. If it isn't, so let's get a new reading. So there we go, that's 12 dB. 0.9 1, 2, 4, 6, 8. It's 0.99. With 20 dB, it's now 3. And when the signal generator, when the deviation meter stops making a racket, we'll see where it is for 10. Looks to be, oh, I'm in the wrong scale. It's about 0.95. So squelch is non-adjustable, but we need to test it. Let's go back to speaker. So with the squelch at full, usually pretty wishy-washy on these, but it's hand portable. Yep. Max squelch is 1.6 microvolts. And the threshold is 0.68. So that is all. That's what it is. It is what it is. Okay, well, we're done. So I said deviation would be under the board. I've shown it before on the other models when we've had to. It's a matter of setting it on frequency and doing it with the marker oscillator. It wasn't far off frequency. Made a vast improvement to transmit, going from 1.5 watts to 2.3, and getting the receiver down well. So I don't know why it was far out. They don't tend to be fiddled with. But there we are. So I'll go and do something else and we'll leave this on test. Right, all we've got to do now is to try and put this thing back together. Customer said it's easier to put the PTT moulding in there first, and I'm sure he's right. He's got quite a collection of metal cased handhelds. Trying to thread the case in the guide rails. He's absolutely right. That went that went in right very easily. Apart from the fact we've got the negative power lead trap there. That's it. I think that's still got the protective plastic on the switch panel there. Right, start getting some screws in. I think these screws could do with buffing up there. Carrying case, all these kind of things that get lost, it's really nice. And I'm sure it's going to work fine. So there we go. Back together, tuck that back in there. Close up the battery door. Right, we'll plug everything back in once again. So this time we want the aerial. Now normally we go 1.9 for a Roger, don't we? And we don't get one. Though it has been known right, so we'll put the adapter on the aerial one. And then we will put you know what I've not done? I've not done field strength, have I? No, Mr. 21, you haven't done field strength. I'm going to have to open it up again. Right, we'll connect it back up to power. Turn the volume down, pull up the telescopic, and get the field strength meter. Right, so making sure the telescopic area is fully extended. Can I get anything on this meter? Yeah, I can. So, do you know what? I realised something. I was adjusting that as part of the receiver, wasn't I, like a Wally? And it's the loading coil. Can you see the peak on that? There we are. It's pretty close. You wouldn't expect it to drift anyway, unless some stupid service engineer thinks it's part of the receiver. So we'll put the aerial back in carefully. We'll put the case back. I'll just cut the power. There's another parameter we didn't recheck, and that's low power. Making sure the battery lead's tucked in, and his battery box. Power back on, and we just need to connect it to the test gear once again to do that test I forgot about. So low power, switch picture and picture on is on. It wants to be on the main meter, and key up, and it's 180 milliwatts. There we are. The job's a good one, as they say. We'll take picture in picture off, and we'll now plug the aerial in. Turn the test equipment off again. So we're not going to be able to go 1-4 a Roger, are we? 5, 6, oh, it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Nothing I can really do is I can't go 9 for a copy. In fact, local farmers use Channel 9. Right, so that's it. So I'm pleased to see that. I don't think we've done a Ranger 6 before, and it's really immaculate, unlike that one I showed you of mine, which somebody's... I'll show you it again. Somebody's got rid of the telescopic because it's no doubt broken. They put a SO239 on. You can't do that because of the loading coil. If you bypass the if you took the loading coil out and wired it appropriately, yes, you could do that. But there we are. But that telescopic on the great set will go on the one he's kindly given to us, and we'll make a nice job out of that, I'm sure. So that'll be... I'll probably try and do that within the next 2 weeks. So thanks for watching the Binatone Long Ranger 6, and we'll do an on-the-air test right away.